Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, and on this segment of the program we have some county government issues on the agenda. We'll be talking about the 2011 Morris County budget, we'll be talking about transportation, and we'll be talking about some other county government issues. With my guest, he is Morris County Freeholder Gene Feyl. Freeholder Feyl joined the Freeholder Board in January 2007. He is a former two-term director of the Freeholder Board, and he is a resident of Denville. Freeholder Feyl, welcome to the program.
Hello, Joe. Thank you for asking.
The Freeholder Feyl is also a member of the Freeholder Budget Committee, and I think that's a good place to start. I mentioned we'd be discussing some county finances. The Freeholders back in March adopted the 2011 budget, so I'm going to ask Freeholder Feyl to just talk a little bit about the budget, maybe compare or contrast 2011 figures to 2010 figures in terms of maybe total amount to be raised by taxation, those kinds of things.
Sure. Our total budget this year is around $330 million. Of that, about 210 is raised by taxes. The other is revenue that's coming in from various revenue-producing sources and aid from the state, or various grant and aid programs that are dedicated to human services primarily. We've been looking at economizing, obviously, as everyone has in government. The budget is now down for 3 consecutive years. We're down $2 million this year, $2 million the year before, and $2 million the year before that. And that's been done primarily through attrition of employees and economies of what we're doing. We are, since 2006, 300 fewer county employees than we were at that point, 30 fewer than last year, primarily through attrition and consolidation of positions. So I think that puts us in a very good position for this year, reducing again the tax rate and the actual tax levy, so that the residents of Morris County should see no increase in their county taxes this year.
The county government, as were all units of government, were under a 2% cap.
Yes.
Was Morris County able to meet that cap? Were we under the cap?
We were under the cap. We were at about 1.8 and a few points under the cap, or over last year's budget and under the cap. I think it's also important to mention that we were offered the option of removing certain things from the cap, such as pension payments, county college. We've included all those in the cap, and that's how we kept the budget flat this year, especially pension. A number of towns and counties have opted to defer that liability. We have said we will pay it as we go and not build a balloon that will burst at some point and become an obligation we can't meet.
What are some of the other highlights of the county budget that you think our viewers should be aware of?
Well, I think this year the biggest expenditure is our construction of a new public safety center. I personally believe that government's primary job is public safety and health, that if our residents aren't safe and the basic services aren't provided, then the quality of life suffers dramatically. Regardless of the quality of parks and library and colleges that we have, the quality of public safety is the most important. So we are consolidating a communication center, a crime lab, and an emergency management facility at our public training facility on Hanover Avenue. And that's the bulk of our capital expenditures for this year. That will be about $25 million. It is being built to be disaster resistant. So in the event of a major hurricane or a tornado, as we've now begun to see in the east, it will be able to resist those natural disasters and keep the county and keep the public safety network running and operating. Has
work already begun on the budget for next year?
Oh, budget for next year, I'd say we began in probably 2009. We look forward 4 or 5 years, because I think the one thing that the people of Morris County deserve is to have consistent taxes, consistent assessment from their government, be it local or county, so that they know what they can anticipate in their mortgage payments and their cost of doing business in the outgoing years. So 2012 was really kind of outlined in 2009, fleshed out a little bit more in 2010, and I'd say in 2012 now we know pretty much where we're going, and that process continues on a dynamic basis.
One of the actions that the freeholders took this year was a reduction of the tax that's used to fund open space projects. I believe this is like the 3rd or 4th year in a row that tax has been reduced. Has the amount of land in need of preservation decreased to such an extent that we no longer need a large pot of money, say $30 or $40 million?
I think it has, but I think it's because of several reasons. Yes, we have acquired the major tracts of land. Those that we haven't acquired, I think, are being withheld by the owners because land prices are so low right now. That benefits us, but the landowner is not necessarily willing to sell at a fire sale price. So land acquisition is down, farmland acquisition is down. However, we see a need now for more historic preservation. If you recall, the Open Space Trust Fund went to Park Commission, historic preservation, and open space acquisition with Green Acres and with local towns. So that now we see a need for historic preservation. In some cases, we bought buildings that we need to maintain. Historic Speedwell is a prime example of one the Park Commission owns. There's a lot of local need for historic preservation with some of their old churches and old historic sites. So I see that money perhaps shifting a little bit more toward historic versus acquisition of land.
Another issue that we want to discuss involves transportation. Now, our viewers may not be aware, but Morris County owns 3 freight rail lines. We don't operate them, but the county owns 3 freight rail lines. One of those, the Chester branch, as it's known, was recently rehabilitated. It was about a year-long project. What was involved in the rehabilitation, and why the rehabilitation?
Well, the rail line was in very bad shape. It was owned by Holland Manufacturing, Jack Holland, and he uses it on a regular basis to bring raw materials into his manufacturing plant in Succossona. The rail line also went further through Roxbury and went into the old Westinghouse site, now owned by Beta Corporation. It was in such disrepair, there'd be derailments on a regular basis, and Jack Holland said to us, if you can get this repaired and get this railroad rehabilitated, I'll give you the rail line. So we didn't have the money. We saw it as a $6 million expense, and along came ERA and the American Rehabilitation and Recovery Act, and we were able to get $6 million from that to apply to what the federal government referred to as shovel-ready projects. And the reason they're shovel-ready is they probably already passed the DEP review, which holds up most projects. And we were able to say to Jack Holland, we'll rehabilitate this railroad, and you'll give it to us. And he agreed. He's now bringing 50 more employees into Morris County to work at the Succossona plant. We already have commitments from Kuchen Brothers Lumber on Route 10, Blue Ridge Lumber on Route 10, and we're talking to County Concrete about moving rock between their facilities in Succossona and Morristown and taking all of that traffic off of the road, Highway 46 and 10 specifically, and it will also back up to Route 80. I think the other site that it'll serve is the old Westinghouse site, the Beta site in Randolph. That is a massive site that could certainly benefit from rail access. I think we've just begun to see the benefits of rehabilitating that line.
Money that comes in for transportation projects that comes into Morris County, a lot of it is actually directed to Morris County by way of the New Jersey or North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, of which you, I believe, are the vice chair.
That's right.
Of the executive committee. What basically is the function of that agency, and are there other projects down the line that may see funding here in Morris County?
Absolutely.
By way of that agency?
All federal projects, all federal money, which is almost $2 billion, that comes into the 13-county North Jersey Transportation Authority jurisdiction, has to be acted on by that body. And it's done through negotiation with NJDOT, with New Jersey Transit, Port Authority, and that money then is allocated, along with money from the New Jersey Transportation Trust Fund, for the myriad of repairs and road projects from the Pulaski Skyway to Route 80 repaving. It all has to be adopted through a process on the NJ TPA. And that process is rather long and arduous, but it sorts out that everyone gets their fair share. In Morris County this year, we are looking at Commerce Boulevard in Roxbury and rehabilitating that. It's an extremely dangerous and congested intersection. We're looking at Sussex Turnpike, which we've been looking at for years, and we're ready to go on that. We have the money from NJTPA and DOT, and that project is engineered and ready to go. We're just have to clear a few DEP hurdles. There are a number of other projects. The one that you may have seen on Route 10 and Route 53 was funded that way, all most bigger bridges are funded that way. So any major project that you see in Morris County that has probably run through the NJTPA process and is in consort with Transit and NJDOT.
Now, another action that the board took this year was to create an economic advisory committee, kind of an outgrowth of an informal group of folks meeting with business executives here in the county. Why formalize that informal approach into an advisory committee?
Well, it was our observation, Margaret Nordstrom and John Murphy, that we were seeing businesses leave Morris County, and the only thing that was happening was we were just waving goodbye. We decided we needed some early intervention to find out who was thinking of leaving, take the steps to perhaps convince them to stay or bring other resources in. Obviously, we can't affect the tax question. Only the governor can do that. And I think we've been very successful in contacting the executives, and we've seen the top executives of these companies who have said, we never saw anyone from the governor before, from the government before. And in certain cases, like Honeywell, we detected a problem at Honeywell that they might be leaving. We called the governor's office. He was there, offered some incentives. Now Honeywell is staying in Morris County. I think another one was Holland Manufacturing. He was prepared to leave unless we fixed the railroad, or were able to give him some relief there. We met with numerous other corporations, and we've been very warmly welcomed, offering our planning services, our GIS services through the county, perhaps road enhancements that we can do to maintain them. Cooperation with the county college and training workforce has been a big thing that the Freeholder has been able to bring to this in building relationships between our vocational technical school and our county college and our local industry. So I think it's been a great success. It's been in concert with the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Corporation. And I think it's been a great team to make sure that we're not waving goodbye anymore and we're welcoming people. Another example, of course, now with the new governor is Bayer, who is staying in Morris County.
Freeholder Gene Feyl, we are out of time. These few minutes just flew by, but I want to thank you very much for being with us and talking about some county government issues today.
Thank you, Joe.
Now, if you have a question about perhaps an issue that we just got done discussing, or maybe an issue that we didn't have time to get to, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office at 973-285-6010. You may also visit the county government's website at morriscountynj.gov. Once you're there, why don't you sign up for the county's electronic newsletter, Morris Connections. You can also become a Facebook fan. You can follow us on Twitter. You can view this and other programs on YouTube. If you would like to check out some county government documents or publications, you can visit the document library Scribd, and you might also want to check out some county photos on Flickr. I'm Joe Garifo. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm John Pecoraro, surrogate of Morris County. If a loved one passes away and you need to transfer property to their heirs, you must come to the surrogate's court. This is true even if the deceased did not have a will. This process is known as probate. Now, probate in New Jersey is not overly complicated, and my staff is available to assist you. If you have any questions, please call my office at 973-285-6500 or visit our website at morrissurrogate.com.
Welcome back to Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, and on this segment of the program, we are going to learn about one of the aspects of the Morris County Library, that being the Music and Media Services section of the County Library. And here to explain that particular department is my guest. He is Darren O'Neill, and Darren is the supervising librarian of the Music and Media Department at the County Library. Darren, welcome to the program. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you just give us a little thumbnail sketch or a brief overview, if you will, of the Music and Media Department at the County Library?
We are a library within a library, meaning that we function as a separate performing arts library within the library as a whole. And so we have circulating and reference material as pertain to the performing arts. Our particular strength is music, as you can tell from the name of the department.
How long have you been with the library?
I started with the Morris County Library in January of 1995 as a paraprofessional, as a principal library assistant. While I was working there, I went to Rutgers University to get my master's degree in library service. And when I graduated, I left the county library for a short time and went to New York City to work at the Performing Arts Library at Lincoln Center, and also worked for the Baker and Taylor Corporation down in Bridgewater. And while I was there, I found out that the supervisory position in the music and media department had become available, so I applied, and they hired me, so I came back to the county library in January 2006, so I've really come full circle.
As supervising librarian for the music and media department, what would some of your responsibilities be?
I have 3 full-time librarians and 1 full-time paraprofessional that work in my department, and so in addition to the typical battery of appraisals and scheduling and that sort of thing, I work with all of the individuals in my department on various projects. And this oftentimes involves coordinating with other staff members in the library. And so my long history with the library and the relationships that I've forged really kind of come to the fore and help out in these situations. So I kind of feel like my role as supervisor is more as facilitator in terms of helping people become successful on the job.
You mentioned there are 2 types of collections at the county library. In music and media at the county library, a circulating selection and a reference collection. What is the difference between the 2?
In general, a circulating collection is something that is replaceable, either with an exact replacement of what it is or something that is a reasonable facsimile. The reference collection consists of material that is not replaceable. And generally speaking, reference material tends to go a little bit deeper and farther than the circulating material in regard to subject matter.
Give us some examples of materials one might find in the circulating collection.
We are very strong in instructional, study, and performance scores of music, also libretti for musicals and operas. And we have music recordings, sound recordings in all conceivable genres across a variety of formats, that's CD, cassette, and LP. And of course our video collection, which is incredibly strong, where we have DVD and VHS of feature films that are both foreign and domestic television shows, and nonfiction material as well across a wide range of subject matter.
Now, you brought a couple of examples with you today. What am I showing here?
This is a very unique recording, a studio recording that was made in 1957 with Bert Lahr and E.G. Marshall, and of course you remember Bert Lahr from
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. And this particular recording came out shortly after the debut in New York. And you notice the back of the recording has notes from none other than William Saroyan.
Okay.
And this particular recording was never converted to any other format outside of LP. So it exists in that state alone. And so it's been part of our collection. I think we got it in the late 1970s, and it's still in very good condition. But this would be something that is unique as part of the circulating collection that we would never get rid of.
So can someone actually take this out of
Yes,
the county
they can.
library?
Absolutely.
Even though it's unique. I mean, when we say unique, it's
That's
one
right.
of a kind.
That's right.
Okay. And now you also brought a is this a musical score?
It is,
From
yes.
a movie? And is this from the reference?
This is from our reference sheet
collection?
music collection.
Okay.
The Muppets Take Manhattan, which, of course, was a very fun movie, if you've seen it. And there are several songs from the movie that are requested often. I've had requests from as far as Greece and the Orkney Islands for songs from this folio. Unfortunately, the music is still in copyright, although the score is out of print, and so I have to refer these folks over to Warner Chappell for permissions to make copies, but they've been able to do it. But the publishing firm is not willing to republish the score, sadly.
Now, is this also able to be taken out of the library? No, I didn't think so.
No,
Okay.
this is a reference item. This would stay in the library, yes.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about the items that are available in the music and media department, what are some of the ways that patrons can use them or can take advantage of the fact that they're there?
Absolutely. They can borrow any of our material in person, of course, or they can request through the online library catalog for that material to be sent to any library within the consortium, which is a total of 36 member libraries. We also have a service for homebound patrons, the Libraries by Mail program, where we will send that material right to their front door. And so the requests can be made online, or they can simply stop in or call us over the phone.
Are there public spaces in the county library where people can, let's say, listen to this album or a CD or view one of the movies in your department?
Absolutely. We have two unique rooms in our department. The first is the listening room, as we call it. It has two turntables and two preamps and cassette deck and CD player. And patrons can bring any of our material into that room to listen. We encourage them to bring their own headphones, but we do have headphones if they would like to use them. In that same room, we have a digital piano. And so if a patron, let's say, would like to listen to the sound recording for Muppets Take Manhattan and also sit down at the keyboard and play through the score at the same time, they can do so in that room.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The second room is what we call the viewing room, and that room has a television set that's connected to a DVD and VCR, so they can watch both formats there in the room, as well as a multimedia computer, where they can go out to the internet, they can plug into interactive CD-ROM software and use that in the room as well.
Now, the Music and Media Department of the Morris County Library, as I understand it, also presents various programs and concerts throughout the year. One such program is something called Friday Films. What is that?
That was started 5 years ago by one of the librarians in my department. He thought it would be a neat idea to come up with a themed film series. So every month there is a theme. For instance, this month we are doing Literature Comes to Life, and so there's Age of Innocence, the importance of being earnest, etc. All of the films are centered about a theme, and they're very well attended. There's no reservations that need to be made. You could just simply stop by. One of the advantages to this particular series is that we have a film license that we pay for at the library, and that license allows us to show movies within the library. There is a discrete list of titles that we can show, and although it is relatively short, it includes a lot of new material. So we're able to show newer films close to their release dates, which benefits the patrons because they don't have to pay to go to the theaters, to go see it, and they don't have to wait excessively long to get it through library channels on DVD.
Yeah. Periodically, there are also concerts at the Morris County Library, correct?
Absolutely, yes. We tend to have two bigger concerts a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, where we'll invite high-profile artists to come in. We've had members from the New Jersey Symphony perform, the Sospiro Woodwind Quintet from New York, local artists Paul Ziegler and Patricia Ruggles, who are very famous on the local scene. And leading up to these bigger concerts, we'll have what we call introductory concerts, which are sort of teasers to bring the patrons in. 9 times out of 10, that tends to be me performing, either as a soloist, I'm a classical guitarist, or in chamber music combinations.
I would assume that some of these programs, if not all of them, cost money, probably money that is not in the county budget or the library budget per se. How are some of these programs funded?
We are very fortunate to have the Morris County Library Foundation, and they petition tirelessly on behalf of the library for the services that we offer and the programs that we offer. And so they generously fund the events where we have the higher profile artists come in.
Yeah, and I should mention now that in just a couple of seconds we'll be giving you contact information so you can go on the website for the county library, check out the schedule of events. But talk a little bit about the librarians that are in your department and their expertise.
Absolutely. They are what you could call subject specialists, in that they've all had library training as part of their master's degrees, but also have advanced degrees in other areas of the arts, whether it be film or music. And so in a public library setting, to have such subject specialists is relatively rare. You would tend to find these sorts of librarians in an academic setting.
The county library exists obviously in Whippany, but many, if not most towns, have their own library, and I would assume they would also have a music or media department or section of some kind. What is the relationship between your department and some of the local library departments?
Well, I guess that's a two-part answer. The first being the relationship is that we all share a catalog, a library catalog, and so that we can freely share our materials back and forth. In regard to the kind of material that they collect versus the kind of material that we collect, Generally speaking, they are purchasing material without an eye for permanency in their collection. However, we look at everything we buy specifically with an eye for permanency in the collection. And so if you had to sort of give a generalization, you could say that the local libraries tend to purchase what would be more recreational material, whereas we are trying to build a deeper and broader collection, more of a research-based collection. And in fact, our mission statement speaks directly to that. So we don't tend to duplicate the materials that are purchased at the local libraries.
So hopefully, in the next several years, if someone came to the Morris County Library and wanted to look for this particular album that we just showed you a few minutes ago, it'll still be there.
Absolutely. And we are always on the lookout to see if there is some re-release, reissue, remaster of these older items in our collection. But as I'm sure you're well aware, the motion picture industry and the music industry are moving in quite a different direction. They are not quite so format bound these days.
Yeah.
And things are moving more to a downloadable and a streaming format as opposed to the actual hard copy.
Darren O'Neill, I want to thank you very much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, if you have a question about anything that we've just discussed relating to the Music and Media Department at the Morris County Library, here's some contact information. First of all, the library itself is on 30 East Hanover Avenue in Whippany. It's open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 9, 9 to 5 Friday and Saturdays, and 1 to 5 on Sundays from mid-September until April. And the main number for the library is 285-6930. Check out the library's website. You'll find all kinds of information about the library and about the Music and Media Department. That's mclib.info. Now, if you have a question about county government, you can call the Freeholder's office at 973-285-6010. Don't forget to visit the county government's website at morriscountynj.gov. And when you're there, please take advantage of the various social media that the Morris County government embraces. I'm Joe Garifo. I want to thank you very much for being with us and invite you to tune in again next week at this time for another edition of Focus on Morris County.